We had this conversation last night. I'm curious from your end, Joe. I would assume it would make the job easier for law enforcement if people had guns, that they secured their guns here. I don't think it's too much to ask. Either put it in a safe, put a trigger lock on it, get a smart gun, do something. But that's probably more of the gun-related responses you guys have to go to, more so than the OK Corral shootouts.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that as a police officer, you just, you can't wrap your head around it. Like, how do you leave a gun on a coffee table? How do you leave it in a garage or wherever it may be? And, these are the guns that are out there that are shooting cops, too, and robbing banks and doing all these things. So as a police officer, you're very concerned about the lack of oversight that some gun owners apparently have. I'm not saying all gun owners, but apparently when you're telling me you're leaving it in a garage or on a coffee table, that's not secured.
Bernard, we talk about, I don't want to relive the debates we've gone over so long, but there's this misnomer out there that, well, the public's divided on this. The NRA's all members, 75% of them, they want background checks. And beyond background checks, and I've seen some numbers put out there, you might know better than me, the idea of responsible gun ownership. Let's say you're allowed to bear arms, okay? And forget even the kind of guns you can buy. But if you buy a gun, you should be criminally, let alone civilly, responsible for what happens to that gun. And if you're going to carry it on your person, you're responsible to it. If you're going to leave it at home, you're responsible for what happens to it. I bet you maybe the NRA may like it, but there'd be a plurality of Americans who'd sign up for that.
I absolutely agree, and this really terrible tragedy underscores the scourge of gun violence and gun proliferation in America. There was a study a few years back that showed that something like 43% of households with children with a gun in their home, had that gun unlocked at some point and not properly secured. I mean, that's extraordinary. And if you look at people who claim, I want a gun in my house to protect myself, people with a gun in their home are almost twice as likely to die in a homicide, significantly more likely to be assaulted with one, to have a suicide attempt occur, to be assaulted. And it really shows that adding more guns into the pipeline is certainly not the answer. And the vast majority of gun owners would agree that better protections are in fact appropriate.
I keep thinking about the case, the Nevada shooting, the middle school shooting. It's possible. I mean, Nevada, and I lived out west for a little bit, the kid might have had access to the gun safe. The kid might have known the combination. It's part of somewhat part of the culture there. And I still think the parents should be and the kid just knew how to get it. I mean, to me, that's still, gun ends up in somebody else's hands and it's used in a crime.
But you know what, Dominic? Mayor Bloomberg ain't going to sell this. The people, if they want to really convince and change minds, they need guys like Joe or law enforcement to come out and say it, because they're not going to call them a bleeding heart. And they need parents who lost kids when they went for a play date to somebody's house and got killed in a gun there. Or somebody who died on a stoop in a household because the next door neighbor decided to shoot the gun that was under the mom or dad's bed. That's the only way you're going to change minds with this. Use Bloomberg's money, but he can't be the face of this.
Well, I think they've already learned if a northern city mayor, liberal mayor, no matter what his party affiliation is, if he or she is the face of it, it's doomed for failure to begin with. But frankly, if we're being honest, I don't even know if we have law enforcement officials, if it's going to change that mentality. The same way that you feel, they feel exactly the opposite way.
But I think it's a much smaller number. We're not talking about the right to bear arms. What we're talking about is something smaller than that, is to bear arms responsibly. They always talk about responsible gun owners. Well, let's put some teeth to it. You ever want to stop kids from partying in there? You hold the parents liable here if the kid gets drunk at the house. All of a sudden, magically, nobody gets banged up at the houses on Friday nights, right?